Have you ever felt exhausted? Have you looked at your life and thought, I can't take it anymore? Have you ever wanted to give up because nothing seems to work? Maybe you're struggling financially, maybe your health is failing, or maybe your heart is broken from betrayal, rejection, or abandonment. Whatever it is, you need to hear this. God is not done with you yet. He is still writing your story. Have you ever wondered why you're going through so many hardships? Do you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and every door is closing? Maybe you're in a season where everything seems to be falling apart, where you feel forgotten, alone, and without a way out. But listen carefully. Suffering is not the end. It's a process. Look at the story of Joseph, a young man full of dreams, loved by his father but hated by his brothers. He did nothing wrong, yet he was betrayed, sold as a slave and thrown into prison. Imagine his despair, the pain of being betrayed by those who should have protected him. But look at what happened. Every hardship was just another step toward his destiny. Joseph went from prison to ruling a nation. Now let me ask you, how many times have you looked at your life and thought everything was lost? How many times have you felt like you couldn't keep going? But what if the pain you're feeling today is exactly what God is using to prepare you for something much greater? What if this season of struggle is just training? If you're facing financial difficulties, think about how this could be teaching you resilience and leading you to opportunities you never would have pursued. Now think about this. Have you ever heard of Steve Jobs? He was fired from the very company he built. Imagine how he must have felt. But he later said it was the best thing that ever happened to him because it forced him to start over in an even better way. And that's exactly what he did. If he had given up, he might never have achieved the success he did. The same happens to us. When God takes something away, He is preparing something greater. Suffering is not a punishment, it's a process. A caterpillar must go through its cocoon before becoming a butterfly, and gold must be refined by fire before it shines. For the next 7 days, instead of complaining about your situation, instead of grumbling and losing hope, I want you to be grateful. Yes, that's right. Thank God for your life, for the opportunity to learn, for the strength you still have. Say out loud, Lord, I don't understand this process, but I trust you. Now tell me, how did you feel? What changed? I guarantee that your perspective will start to shift, and when you least expect it, God will lead you into a new season. The story doesn't end in prison. Suffering is not the final chapter. What you're going through right now is just one part of your journey. Don't give up before you see what God has prepared for you. Have you ever felt like you're fighting alone? Like no matter how hard you try, things seem impossible? Now take a moment and think. How many situations have you overcome simply because you believed you could? Faith moves the impossible. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up is their ability to keep believing, even when everything seems to go wrong. The story of Peter walking on water teaches us something powerful. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he walked. But when he focused on the storm, he sank. Now tell me, how many times have you started something believing it would work out, but when challenges came, you panicked and fell apart? Maybe you're facing a tough season. Maybe you lost your job and feel like you'll never get another opportunity. But let me tell you something that can change your life. Faith doesn't depend on what you see. It depends on what you believe. Let's look at the story of Oprah Winfrey. At the beginning of her career, people told her she wasn't good enough for television. Now apply this to your life. How many times have you believed the negative voices around you? How many times have you doubted yourself because others said you weren't capable? Now listen carefully. If you trust and keep going, your faith will make a way. But today, you must decide that you won't give up. For the next 7 days, I want you to declare with your own voice, God is in control of my life. I believe He has already prepared my victory. I will not give up. Even if the circumstances remain the same, even if nothing seems to change, keep declaring it, because faith is exactly that, believing before seeing. The greatest success stories are not from those who had it easy, but from those who faced the biggest challenges and kept believing. Faith is not a fragile hope. It is an unshakable certainty. The storm may be strong, but you are not alone. God is holding you. If you keep walking, you will reach the other side. Now make a decision. Will you trust and keep going, or will you give up and sink? How many times have you felt alone? How many times have you looked around and thought that no one cares, that you are fighting without support? Maybe you are facing days when you wake up wondering if it is really worth it. Maybe you have cried in secret, feeling weak and forgotten. But listen to this. You are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. The greatest lie of the enemy is making you believe you have no worth. But that is not true. The truth is that God is closer to you than you can imagine. He has been by your side in every tear and every hard night. David, the great king of Israel, a man after God's own heart, also felt this pain. In Psalm 13, he cries out, "How long, Lord?" Does this sound familiar to you? Have you ever felt like God was silent? But look at how David ends that same psalm. "I trust in your unfailing love." David understood something powerful. Even when we do not feel it, even when we do not see it, God is there, taking care of every detail of our lives. Think about the story of J.K. Rowling. Before becoming one of the most successful authors in the world, she was unemployed and raising her daughter alone. She lived on government assistance and battled depression. She felt alone, hopeless, and without a future. But she did not give up. I challenge you for the next 7 days. Every time you feel alone or despair tries to take over, stop and pray. And now, tell me, did you notice the difference? God never abandons us. He teaches us to trust Him, even when everything seems dark. Do not believe the lie that you are alone. God is already preparing your path. Your story is not over. Trust. Hold on a little longer. Your answer is on the way. If you have made it this far, stop for a moment and feel. Take a deep breath and let these words sink into your heart. I do not know exactly what you are going through. I do not know the pain you carry or the struggles you are facing. I do not know what you have lost or how many times you have cried in silence when no one was watching. But I do know one thing. You are not alone. God is with you right now. How many times have you thought you could not take it anymore? How many times have you looked in the mirror and wondered if it was worth continuing? But look at yourself now. You are still here. You are still standing, even after so many falls, even after so many moments when you thought you could not make it. Do you know why? Because there is a God who holds you up. Because there is a God who has never given up on you, even when you wanted to give up on yourself. I know the pain is real. I know waiting is hard. I know there are days when all you want is to lie down, close your eyes, and hope it all just passes. But I also know that within you, there is a strength greater than you realize. There is a God who has already written a future for you. Your story does not end here. Do you remember Joseph? He was betrayed, sold as a slave, imprisoned, and forgotten. But his story did not end in prison. God lifted him up. God placed him in a position of honor. And if He did it for him, He can do it for you. Do you remember David? He was rejected by his own family, pursued, and forced to hide. But his story did not end in the cave. God made him the king of Israel. If God did it for them, He can do it for you. Now I want you to look in the mirror and see the person God created. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. You are chosen. You are loved. If you keep going and do not give up now, you will experience something greater than you ever imagined. Hold on. God is working. Your story is not over yet.